Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life with Laurel and Laurel. We're here to help you explore all things internal in your inner work, which we're calling beautiful work here at Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. And we just emerged from a month of exploring the idea of growing your internal GPS and using that as your source of guidance in your life, as your primary source of guidance, shall we say, rather than external influences. And from there, we're jumping into now a month of connection, exploring connection in all different ways. So today, our topic is what creates a beautiful partnership? And Laurel, I'm glad you're here to speak into this with me because I think we've created one here at the podcast. So we can actually speak from personal experience, can't we?
I was thinking the same thing that,
Yeah.
and you say we've created one here at the podcast, but it is so far beyond just this podcast because the partnership we've created in our lives is really, really beautiful.
Yeah. And so for those of you that have been with us on the journey, and if you haven't been with us on the journey for the last 2 years plus, we started the podcast in the summer of 2021. And here we are now in the fall of 2023. So Laurel and I, our friendship began with the podcast, and we didn't know each other at all. We knew nothing about each other other than our few postings on Instagram, which for me was what I think tickled me in terms of, I was like, who is this Laurel? I like what she has to say here, and I want to, connect with her more. And when my idea for the podcast came and I was really strong and I knew that I had to follow it, I was looking for somebody who wanted to join me in this adventure. And I felt like I was getting a message, whether that was internal or whether the angels surrounding me were speaking. I don't know. But it was kind of like, reach out to Laurel, see if she's interested. So I did. And here we are, 2+ years later with a really wonderful friendship. And I would say spiritual partnership, which we're going to speak to a little bit on the podcast today, and enjoying every minute of it. So yay for us. Yeah.
I know. And it's really interesting because, when you think about when we started, like you knew you wanted to start this.
Yeah.
And you trusted kind of the internal GPS of where to go with it, right? And podcasting was not on my list, was not part of my business plan. In fact, if you remember, and I love this, that I said no initially when you asked me to co-host. I said no. I know nothing about podcasting.
I can't do that.
What I did know is that, I was struggling with my own visibility as a business owner, and listening to the message and trusting my inner GPS, that even though I wasn't planning this, it was exactly what I needed. And even beyond that, right? When I think about at that time in my life, I was in a lot of transition. And my, relationships, I was leaving relationships in a work setting and coming into new relationships or looking for new relationships. And, at 57 years old, I was not as optimistic about forming new relationships the way I have, especially through Instagram, right?
Yeah, I know.
But I've always been an in-person, friend, partner, all of those things. So, trusting my inner GPS that the universe was bringing something for me that I needed and that my soul was longing for, even though I didn't know that at the time. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you are so welcome. But I love all that you said here, Laurel, because I want to kind of almost break that down a little bit for our listeners to help them. When we talk about when we ask the question, what creates a beautiful partnership? I think that one of the things that for me, it's kind of like if we took it from a beginning to end, right, is your inner being longs for something, wants some sort of connection or experience in the world. And we, oftentimes through our mental construct and our mental process, and also the influences of what's going on around us, we start to think what we should do to fulfill that longing. And so sometimes, this is what creates the pathway into experiences that aren't really fulfilling, because you're not necessarily really connected to that clear inner GPS that might lead you in a better direction. And so it's like putting all of these pieces together, right? And then, so knowing that your longing, that your desire for something, whatever that might be, is valuable. And then beginning, to trust your GPS to let it guide you a little bit. And I think that, if I go back and I look at my pathway to having, like a life full of beautiful partnerships, which is what I have now, beautiful relationships with a really, to me, a really supportive and loving and encouraging tribe. How I got here was one GPS strike at a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trusting like internally when I was connecting with somebody that there's something, something inside me was saying, wait a minute, this person has something here that I need to know about, or is some going to fit into my life in some way. And you don't know at the beginning what that means.
No. And
Yeah.
I don't know that you're even aware of it at the beginning unless you can trust that, trust, and I say trust yourself, but trust
Yeah.
your inner guidance, trust your intuition, trust your spidey sense, right?
Yeah.
Like when you feel something,
Yeah.
when you're engaged with someone else or you're in a new situation or even an old situation, but if you're not aware that that sensation is there,
Yeah.
you can't even begin to trust it. So, how can we, all of us, be wide open? And I think this is our heart being open and our
Yeah.
soul, because I think, when we think about I use the word heart, heartfelt life, heart-based relationships, right?
Mhm.
Open-hearted. I really think what happens when we live in that way is the heart opening allows our soul to reach into our life and bring us what we're longing for.
Right, right. That connection. I'm for me, I think of it as the connection of my soul actually comes through my heart space.
Yes.
And so if my heart is open, the more open my heart is, the stronger the connection can be, the greater it can be. And then the
Yes.
more, clear guidance you actually receive. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
those words are exactly what I think, even though
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't say those.
you did though. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
did. It was kind of like, you know, I love that you talked about the open heartedness because I feel like we did a podcast where we talked about heart centered living
Yes.
in our last season, and so we'll link that in the show notes for people. But this idea of heart centered living, open hearted living, heart based living is very countercultural still, I think. Um, and so we want to learn how to like reconnect with our heart, reopen it, and learn how to protect it in a way that feels right and good and true for where we are right now. Right. So one of the things that scares people about open-hearted living is, oh my gosh, I'm going to be hurt all the time, right? Like my poor heart can't take that. And yet over time, I can speak into this from personal experience because I have a very, sensitive heart. And was one of those people that can't watch the news without crying when I was young. So it was like, I had to be very careful of protecting my heart. And yet, the more inner work I've done, the more beautiful work I've done, and the more I feel supported by life, by my tribe, more I feel understood and known by myself and others, the more I can live readily with an open heart. And pain is pain, but it's no longer suffering. And
Yes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the
that's
other thing
big.
that it does by practicing that and, maybe dipping your toe in and doing it slowly, I too would cry the
Yeah,
news,
yeah,
television commercials, all of
yeah,
those
I
things,
know.
right?
Yeah,
And so I think in response to that, especially when you're growing up, you tend to harden your heart and close off a part of that to protect yourself. But part of that protection is clearly just our nervous system too.
yeah,
It's
right.
not only our brain or our cognitive being. It's our nervous system. And so by practicing more open-hearted living and developing that trust, you're really calming your nervous system So you're in control of your nervous system and your nervous system's response to those situations, to
Yeah.
that news, to
Yeah.
the experience, to the hurt, right? And the
Yeah.
heartbreak. You're training your nervous system that you're not under threat, that you're
Right.
not under attack, right? So it's some of it is a spiritual practice, and
Hmm.
another part of it is truly, you
Practical.
know, practical and training your own anatomy, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
so it's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and we did a podcast on working with your nervous system as well too. So we'll link that in here
Yeah.
because I think that that's another really important piece of this in terms of creating beautiful partnerships. Right, is you are in a space where you know how to connect with people in a way that feels really positive and rich for you, and you're looking for those people that can offer the same, right? Or return in some mutual kind of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're right. This idea of really knowing yourself, if we talked about, okay, what creates a beautiful partnership, if we started naming off some of the things, we talked about self-trust a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one is having a nervous system that you understand and can trust and is not operating in fight or flight. Because if you're in fight or flight, if you're in survival mode, you don't get the clear messages about what's safe and what's not safe, and
No.
because everything's not safe usually. Yeah.
And that's the message of the world around us. When you say that,
Yeah.
heart-centered living is somewhat countercultural, the world that we live in wants us to believe
Yeah.
that we are living in a world of great risk and unsafety, right? And we have to be hyper vigilant to protect ourselves from that. And so, our nervous systems are on high alert all the time. So, and that's why, going back to the, kind of these relationships and what creates a beautiful partnership, just being in that place calms you and solidifies or reintroduces you to a sense of safety. I mean, I've said this about our relationship, right? That I feel, and I always have, from the time I met you, safe, valued. I trust the space that we're in together. I trust you. I trust myself in this space. And that is really a beautiful place. And it has helped me, strengthen my own sense of safety,
Yeah.
just by being in it. So I'm going to encourage our listeners that even if they only have one or two, beautiful partnerships, like lean into those, learn from those, and start to feel the sensations of your body when you're with that person.
That's great. That's great. And I, so I just want to say to, speak into that to our listeners, respond to that well, because I feel like, when you described, right, how you feel in relationship with me, right, and our partnership, it is mutual. I feel that with you, right? And so when we're talking about creating these beautiful partnerships, we are looking for this mutual experience where we're giving and receiving similarly. That doesn't have to be exact, I mean, let's not take this to the extreme in our language, right? But what we're trying to describe here is something where you feel as supported as is given to, as you are supporting the other and as giving and are giving to the other person as well.
Yes.
And to have that, right, and to honor that, to recognize it, to value it, allows you also then to open up to the possibility of more of that. Right.
Yes.
So, what, like you said, right, just appreciating if you have that only one or two, that's good. That's great. I mean, having one is fantastic, right? More
Yes.
than one is amazing. And more
Yes.
than that is incredible. I value my life. I know I live an incredible life filled with beautiful partnerships. I mean, not everybody can say that. That's a beautiful thing, right?
It really
Yeah.
is. And one of the things that happens once that you experience this level of relationship partnership
Right.
is that you know what you know, right? You can't unknow it. And so it actually changes your other relationships, right? That may not be that mutual partnership. Um, but it can really bring relationships that aren't there yet into that beautiful mutual relationship partnership, because you have experienced it, and because I believe that our beings want this goodness that we experience.
Yeah.
um, and we can start to shift and change all of our relationships.
I would say too, for Laurel, I don't know how you probably experience this as well, but you can speak into it. I'd love you to. Is my experience has been at the more authentic, the more I show up as the real me, and I use my true voice and my on, and I'm living into my honesty, even when it's really difficult or it feels risky or it feels scary. It takes me out of my comfort zone. That I am expanding, right, my ability to live more authentically and to discover more parts of myself that want expression in this lifetime that maybe I couldn't get in touch with, right, on my own, or um appreciate on my own, right? Like having somebody else give me feedback, right?
Yes.
Say, like even thinking about my writing early on, right? I had champions in my early blog writing, friends, family, whatever, who are like, wow, this really means a lot to me. I'm getting a lot out of what you're writing, right? And so that kept me going, right? And it kept me working towards more clarity and more clarity and more clarity in how I was expressing myself and what I was writing and what I was saying. Um, and so, this having these beautiful partnerships, right, helps us become fully us, I think.
Yes. And it strikes me that, I mean, we talked about inner trust, right? Trusting your inner GPS, your own self-awareness of kind of being open and better understanding what you need and your authentic self. Um, when I think about that, there's these levels of the inner work that really need to be done
Mhm.
in order to get to this place where, at least for me, where I'm capable and looking for this type of partnership, this beautiful partnership, right? I mean, there was a time in my life where, you know, I'll say more superficial relationships were satisfying,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that for me, it's been that my level, the depth of relationships and partnerships and what I'm seeking increases as my own, inner work has increased.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, so I think, if you're out there listening, you're friends with us here at the podcast, we want to encourage you, right? To if you long for more coming from your relationships, or more and different, more rich experience in your relationships, or you don't feel like you have the quality of support, love, encouragement that you need and want, right? That's okay to feel that. It's your driver ultimately that will help you be more fully expressed and find those people that will help you, have what you want in the world, right?
Yes.
The people are there. We have people, so many people are here on earth, right? I mean, people are coming to earth to experience this time of great enlightenment. So more and more are coming. And it's just a matter of how do you take the risk of going out and connecting and finding places where you can connect with people that want to have the kind of conversation and connection that you long for.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's coming up for me really a lot in our conversation is curiosity, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
when I think about that curiosity of, you know, what what is what is it that you might be longing for? And who are the people on this planet that are just going to show up in your life and bring what you're longing for to you, right? And I think that that's really important. I have there's a woman I know, her name's Amy. I don't know her well, and I haven't seen her for a while, but um, the first day that our paths crossed, I was sitting in the waiting room at my chiropractor's office, and she was coming out, and she came right up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I should know you."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh," and I could feel, that energy, right? That little bit of, I don't know, maybe it's a spidey sense of, I need to know her too,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and it was really beautiful. Now my husband thinks you are crazy, letting some stranger just walk up to you and say, "I feel like I need to know you." But but it, I think that is why it's so important for me to be able to trust the sensations, right? My
Yeah.
body is telling me, my inner GPS,
Mhm.
my heart. And if my heart was closed, I would not have been able to even engage in the level of relationship that we had.
Yes, yes. And if you didn't trust yourself to keep yourself safe or feel safe in the
Yes.
world, that would be another, well, you can't just befriend somebody from a high. I think I need to know you because you have all these scary thoughts in your head in
Right.
the
And
world
let's
we live
face
in.
it, I've had plenty of experiences where someone has said hello to me and I'm like, "I'm blocking you." I'm like,
Yeah, right,
right.
right,
I mean,
right. Because your
but
GPS goes no.
that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's really, the curiosity is really fun, but it's not open curiosity without information from the inner GPS, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, Laurel, as we, work towards closing the podcast, I want to think about journaling prompts for our listeners because we love to encourage people to do more inner work from listening to the podcast. I mean, that's our goal is to help you, deepen your beautiful work, your inner work. And so we love to offer questions because questions are the pathway to your answers, even if it's not exactly the right question. It allows you to start to explore a little bit if you're willing to write or do have a dialogue with somebody on the questions,
Yeah.
that are here on the podcast. If you're not a writer, find a partner that you want to explore some of the work with and enjoy the questions that way. That's always a good way to do it too. Yeah. So,
So do you have any questions that come to mind for journaling prompts?
I always love an inventory. I know I probably sound like a broken record sometimes on the podcast saying that, but I do love an inventory. I love to, write down your partnerships that you have right now, right? And can you identify the ones that feel more beautiful maybe than the others or have beautiful qualities? What are they? Starting to identify what are they? And what is it that you're doing in those relationships that's different than in the other relationships? And what are you receiving that feels different in those relationships than maybe the ones that don't feel so good? Begin to get clear in the truth of what the experience actually is, right? So you can put some language and some self-expression to what's happening. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. I think the question that I would love some journaling on, and I might do this myself too, is, what's the physical sensation of
Mm-hmm.
of when you are with someone that you are in a beautiful partnership with, a beautiful relationship? What are the signs and signals that your body is giving you, right? And how are they different? Like, notice the contrast in relationships that you don't feel that beautiful, deeper connection and the partnership, right?
Right, right. That's great. Because I think we don't want to underestimate the value of reconnecting with your physical body and your energetic body and the way that they send messages to you. I was just thinking about or talking to somebody and remembering, right? I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but this is you can use this in any capacity, right? But I one of the things I came to a crossroads in my life when I was looking at doing a master's degree and also working at a hospital and teaching some Tai Chi classes. And I knew that I couldn't do all of them at that point in my life. And so I really didn't have a clear answer in my mind of what to choose. And what I did was I laid on my bed And I closed my eyes and kind of just got in a calm state. And then I imagined myself doing my master's degree, what it would look like, what I'd be doing, kind of like, just playing in my mind. Here you are going to school, you know what it's like to go to school. And then I did the same thing with my other choices. And my body clearly leaned in the direction of the working and the teaching classes at that point.
Yeah.
And I followed that path, and I had amazing connections and things happen on that path. And I did eventually do my master's, but the timing wasn't necessarily right. And I went to a different place to do my master's than I would have if I had done that and had more great experiences. So, it's like your body, if your mind feels confused, let your body speak to you, is what I would say.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And that too is countercultural, right?
Yes, yes.
And even when you think about, like, if you don't have many beautiful relationships to source, if you will, in order to do the journal prompt that I mentioned and kind of write about your sensations, your physical sensations, you can imagine, if you will, maybe another beautiful partnership that you may have experienced third hand, right? That you've seen in the world. You can create that vision in your life, or create the vision of the beautiful relationship you want in your life, right? Even if you don't have it yet, and notice what messages your body is bringing.
That's great. That's great.
The embodied self-awareness that we have, that we're capable of, is amazing. It's amazing. And we don't tap into it enough.
We don't. There's some limitless intelligence that exists there that we haven't explored, and we're beginning to explore. So the invitation to is explore. So let's close with saying the most beautiful partnership you can have is with your own physical being and body.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
Amen. And so begin, if you're going to begin anywhere, begin there, right? How do you begin to feel like I have a beautiful relationship with my physical body and my energy body and my beingness? I totally relate to it. I treat it really well. I take good care of it. I listen to it. I honor it. I value it. I speak into it really with beautiful words, right? Like so many things here.
Yes.
Laurel.
And yes, even, thinking about the parts of your body, right? I have a beautiful, deep relationship with my heart. I have a beautiful partnership with my intuition, right? Like all of those things, because sometimes it's really hard to think about having a beautiful relationship with your body in the world we live in, where many people are critical of their physical being. But so I don't want anyone to think that it's your physical being that brings this wealth of information to you. It is the inner workings of your physical being, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet the physical sensations of your body are part of the working system. And so
that's right.
So again, the more we honor and love our physical body with all its limitations and all its whatever, you do or don't like about it, the more you can love it for what it is and honor it for what it can give you and provide to you, as you create that partnership, it's really beautiful.
It is beautiful. I think we have a guided meditation on appreciating your body, your physical body.
We do. It's one that you recorded on a new moon, and so we'll put that link in there too.
That'd be fun.
Okay, in our notes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much again. What a beautiful episode.
Yeah, we'd love to know from our listeners, how are you doing with your beautiful partnerships out there? What are you looking for? What do you need? Let's get more dialogue here. Yeah.
Yes.
Let us know. All right, off we go.
See you again.
Bye for now. Bye.